would a Fortune 1000 corporation be interested in acquiring a small, growing startup?
We look at several things. One is IP, intellectual property. So you have something that we legally can't replicate because of the IP. Second is acquiring a whole nother customer base. So maybe you have this big network effect that you're able to execute that even if we have the technology capacity to do it, we can't because of the network effect. The third is talent. I think someone mentioned that before. So you have like a domain expert that just we feel like we can't compete with. And then the final is maybe if it's a big revenue generator, but that's usually, at least in my experience, that has been not as common as other three I mentioned.
Yeah, Janelle.
That was it. That was it. That's why.
I would say one to add to that.
Whatever, just go ahead and say it. Just say it.
We got history. We go way back. We go way back. She got it.
No, go ahead. I want to know.
No, I don't.
No, okay.
He just messing with me.
That was good.
So you made me forget my question. Okay, that's all right, make one up. So, but this was the question. In what ways is the due diligence process for corporations similar or different from an investor?
So especially at the early stages when you're raising money from early stage investors, they're not necessarily looking at your revenue. I would say most of them are looking at two things. One, is there a big enough market to play in? And then two, is this team capable of pulling this thing off? So the due diligence, especially in early stages, is a lot. It's fluffy. It's fluffy. It's not until you get into like the Series A, Series B that you're actually looking at hard numbers and you're actually doing real traction like analysis. So I guess that question's hard because it's a matter of what investor you're talking to. But I can't speak from the M&A side other than they're going to look at more of the metrics. They're going to look at more of the penetration and the partnerships and team dynamic and where that team will play within the corporation if they're getting brought on board, and how they're going to have to switch things up on the HR side, location, seating of people, things like that. So there's a whole bureaucracy that they may have to figure out before they acquire that company. Obviously, an investor doesn't have to think of any of that.
Got it.
One of the big ones, I think, is management synergy with the management of the company that's acquiring, because no matter what, you're going to sit in the same company. And there's some examples where acquisitions happen and the management team just leaves this with day one, but this doesn't happen that much anymore. And so if you can't agree on things to make decisions, it makes it really hard to acquire.
Yeah, I think for me, transitioning from doing kind of large cap M&A at an investment bank and then working with small startups is a lot of times they don't have bank representation, and so you're working with the founder, but the founder, he or she still has to operate and run their business. So not only are they stressed out and time constrained, they're also slightly may or may not have that experience, and so there's a lot of hand holding on my end, but it's important to establish that rapport, as Kange said.
So whether the startup and the founder seeks out the corporation or vice versa, what does that journey look like from kind of dating to courting to actually kind of pinning the deal?
So I think it's rough. It can be a really rough situation. No matter how nice they are, they don't understand the grind of the entrepreneur, where it's like putting food on the table for everybody here. So sometimes your back is against the wall and you need something to happen, and in those cases you're going to be desperate and you're going to be pushing them harder than they want to be pushed. The corporates, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, you're pushing them, saying, "I need to get this. I need an answer. I need you to run this through the process as quick as possible." So I would say, it's beneficial to kind of farm it out to as many opportunities as you can. Right at the beginning, at some point, somebody will call you out on a no shop clause, which means you have to follow through with this one contract. But until that point, I would say, anybody that's ever reached out to you and said, "Hey, I really like your company. I think there's some kind of strategic fit with our company," I would reach back out to them and say, "Hey, just so you know, we're up on the market." but then at some point, you have to take somebody serious. And my kind of indicator of whether or not somebody is serious about buying us is whether or not you are actually going from one person to the next person to the next person within the company, right? Once they start bringing you around the company and introducing you to new people within the company, that's my indicator that they're actually serious about buying me. When I'm talking only to one person the whole time, and it's like, they start to space out the meetings. It used to be every week, now it's every 2 weeks, now it's every 3 weeks. And I'm like, all right, I might as well just like stop talking to this guy, and I might just focus on this guy. But yeah, it's rough only because people are not on the same timeline as the entrepreneurs a lot of times. You just got to push them.
The question is, how do you prepare yourself to be acquired, right?
Sure.
Just want to make sure.
Trying to make sure I get my next question.
It was, think about the process
Yes,
of
the journey.
the journey.
Yes,
It is like dating. I'm dating right now, so it really is. But I think it's one of the things that gets me confused. So I get a lot of inbound requests, right? And the people that will literally call me and say, hey, we want to get acquired by SAP because we want to scale globally. I'm like, well, why would SAP want to help you scale globally? I mean, what's in it for us, right? And so a lot of companies don't understand that, again, it's a two-way street. So, obviously, usually there's more in it for you that if you're a small company that's going to get bought by a big company, but from a big company perspective, what do you have to bring to the table? So that's something that misses a lot. And so if you can think about, how we talked earlier about build, partner, buy, is coming to a table and saying, hey, I know that we have 4 joint major customers, and all 4 of them are telling me that they would benefit from integration between SAP and them. And here's why. Would you be okay with a pilot with these customers for next year to test it out? That always resonates well because there's nothing to lose and only something to gain. And then from there, we can see how our actual customers are validating this deal, right? And so kind of having this like long-term approach and not be so eager to sell in that moment and test it out. Because also sometimes it's, again, like dating, whereas you might think something is a good idea, but it's totally not from the entrepreneur perspective. Like maybe you don't like our culture, or maybe SAP is not easy to work with for a variety of reasons, which can be true sometimes. So that would be my thoughts.
So just as far as who the point of contact is, so a lot of people say, who do I need to talk to get acquired by this company? Right, I want to go get acquired by Google. All right, how do I do that? Who do I talk to? I have found, so personally, that, these guys, corp dev, that reaching out to corp dev should be my last resort. That they shouldn't be my first POC. My first point of contact should be somebody from the business unit that could use me. And then convincing them to be my champion. To say, oh man, these guys are so good, this company's so great. If only we had them, we would bring in so much new business to us, or we'd be able to have the partnerships that we need in order to build out new portfolio. Like convincing somebody at the company from a business unit first that you're a great company and it's a great fit, so that they can then introduce you to corp dev. And then once you get to corp dev, then you're like, all right, now we're on to something here. But that was the mistake I made, I think, when I was just reaching out to corp devs left and right. And they're like, who knows about you, man? You want me to shop you around for you? Or
I think Ian's right, because our job anyways, even if we like the company, as Kange said, if it's outbound and we like it, I still have to go to the business unit and convince them why it's important for their business. So getting that opposite direction, I think, is really good.